So picture this. You've got 68 different stops spread across the rolling hills of Kentucky, and you're sharing the road with 2.8 million other annual visitors. How do you actually conquer that without completely losing your mind? It is a massive, beautiful, and honestly sometimes overwhelming challenge. If you have ever daydreamed about standing inside a rickhouse, just breathing in that incredible scent of aging oak, but you felt totally paralyzed by the sheer logistics of making it happen, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're decoding the trail together and solving this giant logistical puzzle. Okay, welcome to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail Masterclass Explainer. Think of this as your ultimate comprehensive toolkit. We are going to get you tasting whiskey like an absolute pro and planning a flawless, totally stress-free trip into bourbon country. We've distilled thousands of miles of first-hand, boots-on-the-ground experience down to just the absolute essentials. Here is our roadmap for today. It follows a supernatural path from prep to pour. We'll kick things off with the art of tasting. Then we'll map out the trail, craft your perfect itinerary, tackle the nitty-gritty of logistics and budget, and finally wrap up with some insider pro tips and dining recommendations. By the end of this, you are going to go from a bourbon novice to a fully confident traveler. All right, first things first, the art of tasting. Let's upgrade those whiskey appreciation skills right out of the gate. We've got to start with the spirit itself and learn how to evaluate it like a true sensory detective. The crucial point here is really mastering these 4 pillars before you even step foot in a distillery. First up is aroma or nosing. Now here's a massive pro tip for you. Keep your mouth slightly open while you smell it. Seriously, it lessens the shock of that high-proof alcohol and helps circulate the scents right through your nasal cavity. It's kind of like tuning an instrument before a big concert. Second is appearance. Checking the color actually gives you huge clues about the aging process, sort of like keeping an eye on a slow simmering stew. Third is flavor. When you take a sip, let it really coat your entire palate so you can pinpoint those sweet, bitter, or spicy notes. And finally, the finish. Pay close attention to how long it lingers and how those flavors evolve long after you swallow. Now, all of those steps are exactly why your choice of glassware is just absolutely foundational. You really need to be using a proper tulip-shaped glass, like the classic Glencairn. That wide bowl and narrow rim act just like a precise little funnel, shooting all those incredibly nuanced aromas straight to your nose. If you want to truly evaluate what you're drinking, you have got to ditch the standard wide-mouthed rocks glass. Honestly, that shape just lets all those delicate, hard-earned scents completely escape into the room.
Okay, moving right along to section 2. Mapping the trail. Let's navigate these Kentucky corridors and see how this all translates into your actual travel plans.
When you look at the sheer geographic spread of Kentucky's bourbon landscape, it is wild. These places are scattered absolutely everywhere. We're not just talking about a single lively street you can casually stroll down on a Saturday afternoon. This is a sprawling, massive region that spans across dense cities, rural farmlands, and a whole lot of winding back roads. Get this, we're talking about 68 official stops in total. Let that number sink in. 68. That breaks down into 18 large marquee heritage producers, the household names on the main trail, and 50 smaller, highly experimental operations that make up the craft tour. So, spoiler alert, you simply cannot see it all in one trip. So how do we make sense of this? Well, to make it manageable, just know that the distilleries generally cluster into 3 distinct corridors, and each one offers a totally different cultural vibe. First, you've got the Bardstown Corridor, widely known as the bourbon capital of the world, which is just packed with major heritage brands. Then there's the Frankfurt-Versailles Corridor. That one gives you this amazing, old-money, scenic horse country history with stunning limestone architecture. And finally, the Louisville Urban Strip, specifically Whiskey Row, where you can literally just hop from one historic urban distillery to the next. Now, when you're deciding where to actually unpack your bags and make your home base, you really have to weigh Louisville against Lexington. Louisville is awesome because it gives you incredible central access to 7 major distilleries within just an hour, plus an unbeatable urban dining and nightlife scene. On the flip side, Lexington offers gorgeous proximity to those legendary horse farms and gets you within 25 minutes of eastern stops like Woodford Reserve. But, and it's a big but, it puts you much further from Bardstown. So it really just comes down to picking the vibe that perfectly matches your travel style. Which brings us right into section 3, crafting the perfect itinerary and pacing your journey. Now that we understand the map, let's talk about how to actually structure your days.
I cannot stress this enough. The absolute biggest mistake first-timers make is overbooking. You've got to keep your ambitions in check here. You should really plan for a maximum of 3 to 5 distilleries per 8 to 10 hour day. Expect every single visit to take about an hour and a half to 2 hours once you factor in the actual tour, the tasting, and, browsing the gift shop. Trust me on this, you cannot rush a proper distillery experience. Oh, and if you don't book your tours weeks, if not months in advance, you are literally going to be left standing outside looking in while everyone else is inside tasting.
Okay, lean in for a massive insider secret. Aim for late October. That is the ultimate, undisputed sweet spot for visiting. Why? Well, you get that stunning Kentucky fall foliage. The temperatures inside those massive aging rickhouses are actually comfortable instead of sweltering hot. And best of all, you get a much-needed escape from the chaotic, super expensive crowds that just flood the region during the September bourbon festivals.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Trail Logistics and Budget. Time to manage the money and the miles and tackle the critical practicalities of paying for this trip and getting around safely.
Let's talk numbers. A highly realistic budget for 2 people over 3 days sits right around $1,250. Let's break that down. You're looking at $320 for lodging, $360 for meals, $150 for the tours themselves, and $120 for basic transport. But take a look at that massive $300 chunk dedicated entirely to bottles. Your biggest variable budget-wise is absolutely going to be those exclusive, hard-to-find bottles you inevitably buy in the gift shops. Hey, no judgment. It happens to the best of us.
Now listen to me very carefully on this next point. When it comes to transportation, establish your strategy before taking your very first sip. You're going to be traversing rural, winding, 2-lane roads. You either need to rotate a designated driver within your group or just bite the bullet and hire a local expert transportation package. Whatever you do, absolutely do not rely on rural ride shares. You will lose cell service on those back roads, for sure. Waiting 40 minutes for a car that might never even show up will completely ruin your tightly packed itinerary.
And finally, we've arrived at Section 5, Pro Tips and Dining. Let's uncover those unwritten rules and culinary highlights that take a good trip and make it a truly great one.
These are the things nobody officially tells you, but they are so important. First and foremost, do not wear perfume or cologne. It's the cardinal sin of the tasting room. It will absolutely ruin the delicate nosing experience for everyone around you. Also, be sure to tip your tour guides. They are walking miles a day to educate us. Next, use the dump bucket without an ounce of shame. You really don't have to finish every single high-proof pour to appreciate it. And finally, to save your budget, only buy exclusive distillery-only bottles in the gift shops. Skip the standard stuff you can just grab at your local grocery store anyway.
Now, you've got to eat to survive the trail, right? To cap off your perfect day, definitely rely on some of these top-tier distilleries that actually feature full-service on-site restaurants. Bardstown Bourbon Company has an incredible patty melt. Willett is legendary for their egg salad. James B. Beam offers amazing family-style pizza, and Heaven Hill serves up this ultimate grilled cheese. These aren't just for sustenance, they are an essential part of the cultural experience. They keep you wonderfully fueled without ever having to leave the bourbon campuses.
So, with the map laid out, the budgets calculated, and all the unwritten rules revealed, the only question left is this. Armed with this entire Masterclass toolkit, which historic Kentucky corridor are you going to conquer first? Those aging barrels are resting in the rickhouses right now, literally just waiting for you to pull the cork. I really hope this explainer has given you the blueprint to make it happen. Now, go pour yourself a glass and start planning.